Today we're doing number 4. We're going to talk about wanting the pain to go away, the time warp, anxiety and nausea, negative thinking, those internal annoying thoughts, abandonment issues, rejection, and maybe eating problems. So let's start with wanting the pain and the misery to go. After months of grief, Groundhog Day, you want it to disappear. The underlying emotions spoil every day, and it's human to wish the pain to go. However, it will take time. All the faking and trying to keep positive masks the true misery. You need to hold on to hope and do whatever makes you happy, but do not think you fail because the feelings remain as raw as before. Although you can't have the past back, being stuck in this terrible place takes adjustment. Initially, I thought I could pass through the valley of death and feel better. My idea of feeling better meant being happy again. This was not reality. It took time to accept my unhappy space and keep moving ahead. Seemingly good days were when I only cried once, and bad days when the crying did not stop for hours. Lowering your expectation will help. Be realistic and just ride the storm. In time, the pain and misery morph and you get more used to it. The misery continues, but your ability to survive increases and you actually learn to live with it. Keep looking forward to the future. Grief brings many lessons and strengthens us, even when we feel at our weakest. There is a strange time warp I want to speak about. Loss has a strange effect on time. Some hours seem like days, some weeks are everlasting, and your concept of time is altered. I had days when I thought the day would never end. It seems to be frozen, and every time I checked, the clock had hardly moved. This time warp is inconsistent and unpredictable. You can wake at 10 in the morning and think that the rest of the day is shortened, only to be faced with a never-ending afternoon and night. Some events and special days, like their birthday or an anniversary, takes ages to arrive, and the weeks before seem prolonged and arduous. Everything is in slow motion. Gradually, time sorts itself out, but in the beginning, it is unpredictable. Eventually, I just settled with this time discrepancy and succumbed to it. I binged on TV and did some mindless chore to try and fill it in and make it go faster. At the start, the weeks seem like months, and while the world quickens, yours seems to slow considerably. Perhaps being in constant emotional pain and turmoil adds to the time warp. It's like wanting to be out of this terrible time and not being able to do anything to stop it. The disconnection you feel adds to the time warp. Part of you is back there trying to process the loss, while the other part is grappling with the now. Not feeling present is normal. Another strange aspect of time confusion is the sameness of each day. You awake to face the same emotional void. The person is gone and you are left alone. The repetitive Groundhog Day is like doing time. Of course, you know it's one day later or 1 month on, but it's exactly the same situation physically, emotionally, and mentally. You can wake up also with anxiety and nausea. At first, when it happened, I didn't really recognize it. I didn't really realize that it was anxiety. I just woke up feeling somewhat sick in my stomach. For weeks or months, I would wake up with this. The anxiety and nausea may begin during the dying process while they were still in hospital or suffering at home. It also continues after the death. And when you have these emotions, they're usually connected to a worrying part of the death process. You know that you are being foolish and overreacting. However, this is just how you feel. Loss is fearful, and it's an unknown territory and will challenge your existence. I found the worst times when I was alone or in the very early hours of the morning. Grief is like being on this terrifying wave, never knowing when or how you're going to survive it. It really rocks your soul to the core. There are helpful drugs to alleviate these emotions, and you can use them when it seems appropriate. Herbs, meditation, and tapping may lessen it. I used emotional freedom tapping and found it very useful for me. You can Google that. Use what works for you. Your goal is to navigate through this grief and survive. When you are going through a difficult period, your body talks. Some mornings you actually might wake up and feel sick. It is not the usual illness like a cold or a virus, it's just a sickening feeling in your body. This is not the anxiety and the nausea, this is actually feeling sick. Grief is a complex experience, and all you can do is soothe and nurture yourself. Remember, emotions are transient and they will lessen as you move through the months. It is natural and an honest response to moan and groan through dealing with loss, but it is not really healthy. Of course, underneath the pain lingers, but some days are very hard. However, you can still be positive about other parts of your life. When you think negatively, the body is directly affected. By filling yourself with positive thoughts, there is a balance. Instead of only being full of negativity, there are also uplifting emotions. Whenever you have a negative thought, try and replace it with a positive one. This simple intention stops you from filling up with negativity. Being in the moment helps. Smiling back at a baby, saying something positive to others, and being cheerful when you are able. Remember, every day brings a new opportunity. When you begin a sentence and you know the end is going to be negative, change it. You may decide to say less, especially if you are feeling down. I filled myself up with positivity whenever I could and tried to let go of all the negativity. This simple practice helped me to become a more positive person, regardless of my personal life. My grief was there, but so is my love for myself, others, and my life. I constantly strive to be a happy individual and spread it around. No one has to be a sourpuss all the time. Being positive also gives you time out from your loss. In those few moments, you are elated and focusing on a happier side of life. Grief is obsessive by nature. Your emotional compass is unbalanced, and this causes dysfunction in your thought process. It takes no time at all to be caught in a loop which runs over and over. Your internal, emotional, mental, and psychological machine is playing constantly during the process. I had flashbacks from the last few weeks and months. Whenever I was not concentrating, in they came. I felt swamped by the past. I cannot remember how many times that last day and his actual death jumped into my mind. They were the memories and the painful emotions. When the death or the time of loss is traumatic, the imprinting is stronger and harder to avoid. Every time I was reliving it, I tried to let it go. This changed my focus and enabled me to move on. In releasing it, there was acknowledgement, and over time, the time between the flashbacks lengthened. Good and healthy internal thoughts feed you, while distressing or highly emotional ones drain you. Gradually, by replacing these negative memories, your brain is rewired into a positive space. Although loss is painful, you don't have to continue to relive it all and experience negative and sad thoughts forever. You can feel abandoned when your partner dies. Although you know the lost loved one has not abandoned you, it feels like they have. It is a totally irrational response, and yet you feel it. They are gone and you are left. There is sadness, loss, and anger. Being abandoned taps into our little child. The fear and anxiety rise up, and you are like a small, frightened child. When Ray died, I was devastated and quite lost. On many levels, you are left here to fend for yourself and deal with all the collateral damage. Uncertainty about your future and the feeling of devastation add to it. The truth is that the one left behind suffers in unimaginable ways. No matter how much time you have got prepared, when the person dies, you totally are unprepared. Nothing prepares you for the loss of this magnitude. We've all yelled and screamed at the one who has gone and begged them to come back. It is a desperate time. However, all the wailing and crying never brings them back to us. However, as you grow and begin to cope with being alone, the abandonment feeling will diminish. Unless you go through the loss of a partner, you can't understand how it really feels. Forgive people who seem to reject you. It is not rejection, but their inability to know how to handle the situation. Sometimes they step back when you need them to step forward. This reaction is normal. Do not read anything sinister into it. Accept the love and help from those kind souls who are there for you. Although it feels like rejection, keep in mind that you are emotionally very sensitive. As a single person, you are different. Some people seem to adapt quickly and the transition is easy, while others take time to get used to it. The feeling of being rejected has more to do with their response to the grief than yours. Embrace the nurturing ones and try not to focus on the others. I had a light bulb moment with people. I began to see them as they truly were. Narcissists and selfish people do not care about how you feel. It's not personal. They never care about anyone else except themselves. So you are not alone with these individuals because everyone is treated in the same uncaring way. During loss, it is hard to face reality. This might be the first time in your relationship with them that you were the one in need. The realization is disappointing. However, unconditional love teaches us to accept others and their flaws. Let them go and live their lives, and remember not to depend on them. Their words are merely words. Ask someone who is unselfish and shows through what they do. Selfish people are not bad people. However, they do hurt others due to their self-absorption and lack of empathy. The grief process highlights many parts of your life. Sometimes, however, the light does shine on areas you may not wish to see. Grief creates stress in your body, and every part of your being takes the hit. It is not unusual to drop or lose a lot of weight. I dropped many kilograms and felt like I was walking in someone else's body. It was surreal. Grief is a difficult pill to swallow. The extreme stress affects your body and ability to eat. Some days you literally cannot eat or swallow your food. I had this for months. My appetite was non-existent and I tended to eat like a robot to make sure that I got a balanced diet. Socially, you can become an eating leper, unable to go out for dinner or lunch because you never know when you can or can't eat. On the bad days, I stayed away from social eating occasions. I told my friends and family I was having trouble eating and worked around the situation. To make sure I received nutrition, I made healthy fruit and vegetable smoothies and took extra vitamins and minerals. Your appetite increases as you get better and your weight will return to normal. The reverse happens too when you just start eating and can't stop eating and gain lots of weight. I ate my way through my mother's illness and death. One wise nurse in palliative care told me not to worry about it and see it as a coping strategy to help me steer through the journey. I was protecting myself. She reminded me that afterwards the weight would slowly come off. Try not to stress about your eating. As you move through the process, you rebalance, and this is reflected in your eating patterns.